All right, in today's Explainer, we are digging into some pretty eye-opening new research. It's all about screen time and what it's really doing to our kids. And believe me, the results are more than just numbers. They tell a story that I think every parent out there needs to hear.
So let's just dive right in. This is the big question, isn't it? It's on every parent's mind. We hand our kids phones, they watch TV. Screens are just a part of growing up now. But what's the real bottom line? What's the actual cost to their development?
Well, a recent study published in the Indian Journal of Psychiatry decided to tackle this question head-on. They looked at a whole group of kids and teens to get a real picture of their screen habits. And what they found? Well, it's pretty concerning.
Okay, let's start with this number right here, 3.1 hours. That was the average amount of time that kids in this study were spending on screens. Not per week, every single day.
Now, to put that 3.1 hours into perspective, the study found that a whopping 2/3 of these children were spending more time on screens than health experts recommend. We're not talking about a small fraction here. That is a huge majority of kids. And here's where you really see the disconnect. You've got major health organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics saying, hey, no screens for kids under 2, and keep it under 2 hours for kids 5 and up. But what the study found in reality was an average of 3.1 hours a day. That gap is significant.
So where's all this screen time actually going? The data points to two main culprits. Mobile phones, no surprise, are at the very top of the list, used by over 70% of the kids. And right behind that is the good old television at 66%. These two are the big drivers of that high average.
Okay, so here's the crucial point. This is not just about counting hours on a clock. It's about the real, measurable effects this is having on a child's development. And the study breaks it down into 3 key areas: their physical health, their cognitive skills, and their social and emotional well-being. First up, let's talk about the physical toll. The research links all this screen time directly to kids being way more sedentary, which can lead to problems like obesity and poor eating habits. It's also a major disruptor of something so important for a kid's health: their sleep. Then, there's what's happening inside the brain. And cognitively, the risks are just as serious. We're seeing links to impaired language development and something called executive functioning. That's your brain's CEO, the part that helps you plan, focus, and multitask. Even crazier, the research suggests it can lead to actual structural changes in the brain, impacting the white matter tracts, which are basically the brain's communication superhighways.
And of course, you have the emotional and social fallout. The study found more conflict in families over device use, kids showing actual withdrawal symptoms like irritability and anxiety when screens are taken away. Even deception, kids lying or sneaking around to get more screen time. And that's not even counting the increased risk of things like cyberbullying.
And all of this builds to a really critical point. Because for a pretty significant number of these kids, this isn't just a bad habit anymore. The study found that it actually crosses the line into a diagnosable clinical condition. Get ready for this number. For me, this was one of the most alarming findings in the entire study. Over 1 in 5 children, 22.2%, met the clinical criteria for what's called screen media addiction. Think about that. More than 1 in 5.
And let's be absolutely clear, addiction isn't a word we're just throwing around here. The study based this on the official DSM-5 criteria for Internet Gaming Disorder. This is a clinical diagnosis that mental health professionals use, defined by serious symptoms like being totally preoccupied with screens and showing withdrawal when they're not available.
The research also gave us a heads up on which groups might be more vulnerable. Addiction was more common among boys, kids with existing neurodevelopmental disorders, and, this is really interesting, kids living in joint or extended families. The thinking there is that it can be a lot harder to set and enforce consistent rules.
So after all that pretty heavy data, the question is obvious, right? What on earth can we do about it? Well, the good news is the study doesn't just drop the problem in our laps and walk away. It also points us toward the solution.
The researchers themselves are really direct about this. They say there's an urgent need for parental awareness and regulation. Basically, they're saying that parents are on the front lines, and the solution starts with us. So, what does that regulation actually look like in real life? The study points to a pretty clear 3-step playbook. It starts with awareness, just getting real about how many hours your kid is on screens, what they're watching, and how it affects them. Next up is regulation, setting those clear, firm limits. Things like no phones at the dinner table, or all devices get turned off an hour before bed. And finally, maybe the toughest part, consistency. The rules have to apply every single day, and everyone in the house has to be on the same page. So as we wrap this up, the big takeaway is this.
While all these risks are very real, they are not inevitable. The power to create a healthier balance is truly in our hands, in our families, and it doesn't have to be some massive overhaul overnight. It can start with a single, simple question. What's one rule your family can set together today?